Peace, love, liberty, radio.
And the walls come crashing down as the war at home reaches your town. You have no choice, it's safe and clean. We all submit to the war machine.
No, not everybody. Not everybody. Certainly a lot of people do, but it is not everybody. Certainly not me. Hopefully not you. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, where, no, we don't submit to the war machine. But what I do is I tell you some news and then give you my insights with sort of a twist on how things could be done in a freer society. And one thing that might happen in a freer society that is in some ways happening in Beech Grove, Indiana, is that bad parts of town are going to be labeled as such. The story here comes from CBS4Indy.com. That's CBS, the number 4, Indy as in Indianapolis. And they report that Beech Grove, or rather the Beech Grove mayor, is back on the offensive, trying to push a persistent drug and prostitution problem out of the city. Now, what does that have to do with something that can happen in a free society or a freer society? Well, it's his plan to do so, and I think it might backfire. It might make it easier for people to find drugs and or prostitutes. His plan, according to CBS 4, involves posting in plain sight the problem he's trying to eliminate. Beech Grove Mayor Dennis Buckley says, "I wasn't happy with what was going on, and it's not going to continue because we will do something to make it stop. This is one option, and I'm not afraid to do it." The sign reads, "Warning, prostitution and drug area." Mayor Buckley says he wanted to post the sign in specific areas, like right outside of the Motel 6, which locals say is plagued with these problems. So, now for any of you that might be traveling and for some reason find yourself in Beech Grove, Indianapolis, and you just have a hankering for some drugs or some prostitutes, well, go to the Motel 6 because that's apparently where the mayor says they are. Now, what I think is going to happen here, and I'll give you my thoughts before I continue the article, they're going to put these signs up in various places. The one place specifically mentioned so far is right outside of the Motel 6 in Beech Grove, Indiana, saying, "Warning, prostitution and drug area." And what that's going to do is it's going to cause some people that did not know where to find drugs or prostitutes, it's going to cause them to go to that area because now they know where to go. It's also going to cause some of the people that were either selling drugs and or sex to leave that area and go somewhere else, thus sort of, like moving the drug and prostitution area, thus throwing the people that were otherwise looking for drugs and prostitutes that didn't know where to find them, throwing them off the trail. And now you just got a drug and prostitution area somewhere other than the drug and prostitution area. It's kind of like, the deer crossing signs, where what they do is they figure out where the deers cross, and they put up these signs. But some people, and yes, some people really are this dumb, some people have called the Fish and Game Commissions of various states and asked if they could move the deer crossing because they were tired of the deer walking through their yard, eating the apples off of their trees. That was an actual story reported by a Pennsylvania game warden in, the Pennsylvania, I forget what they call their monthly little thing that goes out to all of the fish and game people, and other people can subscribe to it. But they have various stories in there of these are actual calls that were received by Fish and Game people or actual incidents that some of the wardens experienced when out on the field. And yes, somebody actually asked if they could move that deer crossing sign because the deer were eating her apples. So, Unlike that, where they just happen to put a sign and deer can't read signs, they just cross where they cross, and the signs go up where they are. The people that are doing the drugs and prostituting, they can read the signs, or at least one would imagine that they could read the signs, or have someone read the sign to them, and then they would know, hey, I should probably go do this somewhere else, because the cops are then going to focus in that area. So it's not going to eliminate the problem. What would eliminate the problem is if they just say, you know what, we're not going to arrest people for doing this because they're not harming anyone other than possibly themselves. They're not going out and forcing heroin needles into people's arms. They're not going out and raping people. That doesn't happen where you have legalized prostitution. Well, certainly there might be somebody that's still going to rape someone in an area where there's legalized prostitution. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is the prostitutes themselves aren't going out and raping people. That doesn't happen. The story here continues with Mayor Buckley, who says, "It's not fair to the people that live here. It promotes a bad image for the city, and we don't need it." Mayor Buckley says he is prepared to do whatever it takes to improve the quality of life in his city and believes these signs could play a role in that. Yes, he's prepared to do everything, or rather whatever it takes, except for repealing the laws that wind up causing people to go to jail for offenses that have no victim. Yeah, whatever it takes, except for doing the right thing. Whatever it takes, as long as I can continue to throw people in jail, right, Mayor Buckley? The story here continues, but some people don't think posting a sign will stop illegal activities. Really? I could not imagine why it wouldn't. Having it already written on the books, you can't do this or there will be punishment, hasn't seemed to work. Why does anybody think that slapping up an 11 by 17 sign is going to fix anything? Well, one person interviewed named Kathy Miller says, quote, "Would they read it? Would they care? People are going to come over no matter what. If this is a place that they are going to do drug deals and all of a sudden they will continue, it happens all over." The warning signs are part of Beech Grove's crime-fighting initiative. Issues in Beech Grove came to light after a video of two women fighting at a Walmart went viral, bringing the city negative publicity. City officials have been working with Walmart to reduce crimes there. Beech Grove police are called to the Walmart several times a day for burglary reports. Well, maybe if you're just, going after things people do drugs, so therefore ban those. Well, people are doing stuff at Walmart, ban Walmart there, Mr. Mayor. But I'm not actually advocating that you ban Walmart. I'm just trying to use your own logic and rationale of, so people do bad things at the Motel 6. Let's put up a sign and continue to arrest people and whatever it takes. Well, banning Walmart might help your cause. I don't really know. Hopefully they wind up getting this fixed. And if you go to Beech Grove, find that prostitution and drug area, have some fun. There's more when we come back.
Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Opening a wallet is quick and easy, and for merchants, there are no transaction fees on the first $1 million worth of transactions. All of your funds on Coinbase are safe, with approximately 90% of customer funds being stored offline, and all wallets are stored using AES 256 encryption. To date, Coinbase has more than 1 million consumer wallets and is trusted by over 25,000 merchants, including Overstock.com, Khan Academy, Reddit, and of course, FPP. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. That's coinbase.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month or any amount of Bitcoin per month, thanks to the recurring payment options provided by Coinbase. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's FANS.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Have you ever been part of a psychological experiment? Are you sure? Are you 100% positive that you have never been part of a psychological experiment? Well, the Daily Mail would like to differ with you, and they claim that everyone on Facebook has been part of a psychological experiment, not just by using Facebook. Like they're not saying that, the simple act of using Facebook is a psychological experiment. But do you recall a couple of weeks ago, after the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in the case name, people don't even know the case name. It's Obergefell v. something another. That was the Supreme Court case where the 9 justices, 5 of them, wrote the majority opinion saying that same-sex couples had the same legal fundamental right to marry as different-sex couples. And then it was about that time that there was some plug-in added to Facebook to where you could put a rainbow flag over your profile picture. Well, that is the experiment. The story, again, comes from the Daily Mail, and they write, your Facebook feed is probably looking a little more colorful this week. In celebration of the Supreme Court's approval of same-sex marriage, the site is offering users a tool to overlay their profile photo with a rainbow filter. More than 26 million people changed their profile pictures using Facebook's rainbow filter to show their support of the LGBTQ community since the tool launched on Friday. And, of course, they're talking about several Fridays ago. This article was written on June 29th. And there was just an aside here. Somebody had posted on Facebook, oddly enough, last night asking what the Q stood for in LGBTQ. Well, the Q stands for queer. The T stands for transsexual. The B stands for bisexual. The G stands for gay. And the L stands for lesbian. One of the former hosts of Flaming Freedom, Neil Connor, came up with the acronym Quilt Bag, where, again, the Q stands for queer. The U, I believe, stands for unisex. The I for intersex. The L for lesbian. B for bisexual. A for asexual. And G for gay. So quilt bag is what I'm going to be saying throughout this article whenever here in the Daily Mail it refers to LGBT or LGBTQ. So many people were changing their profile pic to the rainbow filter to show their support of the quilt bag since the tool launched. But while it may seem like Facebook's intentions are noble, some reports claim the social network may be carrying out another psychological test on its users. And before I continue, let me just say that when I say quilt bag, I do not mean it in a derogatory fashion at all. Neil Connor is a gay man. Flaming Freedom is, as far as I know, the only radio program by anarchist, libertarian people that are of one of the quilt bag letters. So there are people that are gay, people that are lesbians, people that are bisexual, people that are, any kind of what is considered queer. And queer in and of itself really just means something outside of societal norms. So some people will use the term queer to mean only gay, lesbian, trans, etc. Some people use the term queer to include people that are into some sort of fetish sort of thing, people that have, shall we say, unusual sexual appetites. So, like the Q could mean pretty much anything, and pretty much anybody could be labeled with the Q in quilt bag. So the story here from the Daily Mail continues. It says the reports were sparked by a throwaway comment by MIT network scientist Cesar Hidalgo on Facebook. He joked, "This is probably a Facebook experiment. The question is, how long will it take for people to change their profile pictures back to normal?" This led Atlantic to speculate that by setting up its own tool to let people filter their profile picture, Facebook could gain unprecedented insight into how to influence people. Facebook, however, immediately denied the claims. And of course, they denied the claims. Nobody wants to admit to conducting a psychological experiment on millions, nay, hundreds of millions of people without their permission. And the reason you don't want to admit to that is because of the ethical concerns. Because there are ethical concerns over conducting psychological experiments. And you really only need to look back to some of the experiments that have been done in the last, say, probably 50, 60 years. There were the Milgram experiments, where Stanley Milgram had people come into what they thought was some kind of lab, and they were told to ask a person on the other side of the glass a series of questions. If the person responded with a wrong answer, they were to get an electroshock. And the person reading the questions had knobs in front of them, and, like they were told, go all the way to 11, basically, to where, you must continue, you must turn this all the way up. Even after the person on the other side of the glass stopped screaming, stopped responding, you must continue, you must give them the lethal shock. And what happened in the Milgram experiment is that when it was just somebody that was dressed up in regular street clothes that was essentially acting as sort of an understudy to the head professor, if you will, the person did not comply all the time. And they did not comply a large percentage of the time. However, when the person was wearing a lab coat and looking professional, like they were the person in charge, it was somewhere near like 60 or 70% of the time that the person went ahead and gave what they thought was a lethal shock, even though there were no wires actually connected to the person on the other side. There were also the Ash experiments, where, and this, the Facebook thing reminds me a lot of the Ash experiments, to where you weren't, teaching somebody that it's okay to give a lethal shock. You weren't teaching them to necessarily follow orders. You must continue. The experiment requires you continue. That was not being taught in the Ash experiment. What was found out in the Ash experiment is conformity. People wanted to fit in, even if it meant that they knowingly gave false information to someone that was seen as an authority. People wanted to fit in. So what happened with that is they had 11 Confederates, no, not people from the southern part of the United States that waved what is not actually the Confederate flag. People that were basically, they were in on the joke, even though it wasn't really a joke. 11 people gave wrong answers. The 12th person not in on it. Well, sadly, most of the time they gave the wrong answer as well because they wanted to fit in. More on that and Facebook and rainbow flags.
The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, ExpressCoin, and Amazon, at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Before I get back to telling you about the Facebook psychological experiment that you may have unwittingly taken part in, I want to make sure I tell you about another social network where, as far as I know, Jeffrey Tucker is not conducting psychological experiments on his users. Shame on you, Mr. Zuckerberg. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Jeffrey Tucker is the man behind Liberty.me. Liberty.me is not just a social network. It's like all the best parts of the internets, minus porn, put into one site. So you have the social networking aspect. You have the bulletin board aspect, forums. I still don't know if they're called forums or bulletin boards because, like, the name keeps changing, and, like, I've heard people refer to their forums as a bulletin board. But whatever, they've got forums. They've got the social networking aspect. There are chat rooms. That's something that Facebook does not have. You can, of course, have your groups. And there's the publishing aspect where basically WordPress has been added to the social networking aspect. There are also freebies that you can get, free ebooks, free Liberty guides, and so much more. And the reason that I like Liberty.me, and I don't spend as much time on there as I probably should or as much time as I would like to. But Liberty.me, one of the great things is that, well, aside from no social experiments or psychological experiments on the users, there are also no internet trolls. That's because internet trolls don't want to have to pay to be an internet troll. The internet trolls do, however, thrive on Facebook, not so much at Liberty.me. That's because Liberty.me, again, a paid service. Go there, sign up, Liberty.me. So back now to the article from the Daily Mail. They write, a spokesperson for the site, that being Facebook, told DailyMail.com, quote, "This was not an experiment or a test, but rather something that enables people to show their support for the quilt bag on Facebook. The point of the tool is not to get information about people." But as a report in The Atlantic, and this sentence doesn't read properly, one of these words is incorrect, so let me rephrase the sentence. But according to a report in The Atlantic, the site has long been involved in research to better see how information spreads in a social network. For instance, in March 2013, the company published a study that looked at the factors that predicted support for marriage equality on Facebook. The research looked at what might influence a user changing their profile photo to the red equal sign. They found that people with more friends changing their profile photo to a red equal sign were more likely to go through with the change of their profile picture. Funny viral videos spread on the social network don't appear to follow the rule, according to a report by the Mirror Online. The study, however, was not able to discover, or rather, the study, however, wasn't able to discover was whether it was friends that influenced the change or whether the users already had friends with the same views. Last year, Facebook was accused of breaking data protection laws when it altered the news feeds of almost 700,000 users back in 2012. The so-called emoticon contagion experiment, in which the social media giant edited feeds to highlight either positive or negative items, caused outrage among some users. The data scientists were trying to collect evidence to prove their thesis that people's moods could spread depending on the type of content they were reading. None of the participants in the Facebook experiment were explicitly asked for their permission, though the social network terms of use appear to allow the company to manipulate what users see in their news feeds however they see fit. So even though people did not explicitly say, yes, I agree to be part of your experiment, they implicitly agreed by, continuing to use Facebook. And really, isn't that the argument that the people who love the state, I like to call them kneelers, that's a Game of Thrones term for those of you who have never heard me use the term before. And what it means, let me explain kneelers real quick. So in Game of Thrones, there are several different, groups of people. And there's a group that lives, without giving it away, they live north of this thing called the Wall. The Wall is 700 feet high, and it separates Westeros from the Land of Always Winter. And the people that live north of the Wall, they prefer to call themselves the Free Folk. However, they are often, by people that live in Westeros and elsewhere, called wildlings, because they have no king. Well, there is someone who is referred to as the king beyond the wall, but he's not a king in the same way that the Westerosi kings or the Dothraki kings are kings. They're not someone that gets respect because they demand respect. They get respect, and they're seen as an authority because, they have earned the respect and people look up to them. But other than that, they're all equal. There's nobody that has royal blood in the Land of Always Winter. So the wildlings, or the free folk, they refer to the people south of the wall, the people that kneel before a king. They refer to them as kneelers. And they have a saying, north of the wall, we don't kneel. So the kneelers, they're the people that make the argument of, if you don't like America, leave. Or you agreed to all of this because you live here. And that's the one that always gets me is, you consent to the government existing because you live in America. But no, just because I live here doesn't mean that I consent to what they do. The claim is what they call implied consent, to where, you're not doing nothing to stop it, so therefore you consent to it happening. Well, no, I don't. The reason I've not moved to another country is because no matter where I move, there's going to be a government doing something that I don't like, and my presence in what they claim as their territory is deemed by the kneelers as my consent to it happening. That there are really two ways in which I could really show that I don't consent to anything. One of those is to build a spaceship and live forever and ever in outer space. The other way is to build a boat and live forever and ever in the middle of the ocean, making sure that I'm completely in international waters. That being water that is not within roughly 12 kilometers of the border of any existing nation or any nation that will exist at some point in the future. So while, yes, you implicitly agreed by being on Facebook, you did not explicitly agree. Therefore, shame, shame, shame on you, Mr. Zuckerberg. The link will be in the show notes. There's a little bit more to the article. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to Peace Love.